We'll try to remind you.
Didn't pick it up, so it's not working.
Yeah.
Good to go.
All good, okay. Welcome to the City Council Community Planning and Transportation Committee meeting for Thursday, June 26th, 2025. We got 3 items on the agenda this month. The first item, as usual, is our presentation discussion about the public transit ridership for the last month, ridership report from last month. And we have Taylor here from city staff to lead that discussion with us.
Thank you, Chair and council members. I'm Taylor Johnson, your Transit and Parking Program Manager, and here to give the brief update as always on transit. First in the memo, we did come to council for the Central Oklahoma Long Range Transit Plan last month, and we expect to come back one more time before that plan goes to the ACOG boards for final review and adoption. So please stay involved in that if you can. There's a town hall coming up, so check out the project website and provide some comments. Even if you can't attend the town hall, we'd appreciate that. And then for microtransit, you guys, we obviously had the contract amendment on the same day that the budget is adopted, so staff are working to get those, the budget amendment, not the contract amendment, but the budget amendment. So we're working on contract amendments with both VIA and OU to get those in front of council, hopefully at the first meeting in July, so we can keep that program moving past the end of the second year, which would be about August 21st or August 20th. So trying to get that in front of you guys as soon as we can to get all that ironed out, but excited to keep that program moving into its third year and see how it goes. And then lastly on the memo, I just want to mention on the paratransit software transition, we had the issues at the beginning. We had the meeting at the AW with some riders and AW staff on May 12th. We had a follow-up meeting on June 20th. Things appear to have gotten a lot better as we've tightened up some of the things on the software, made some adjustments, and took back that feedback and worked on those things. We have a follow-up meeting again next month in July at the end of the month to just again check in, see how it's going, and continue those conversations. So, and then as far as the numbers, still exciting news as we end the fiscal year. This is for May, so we still have June to look forward to for next month. But we ended the month in May with 42,400 rides for both paratransit and fixed route. That's about a 22% increase over last May. And for the fiscal year, we're at about 462,000, which is a little less than 27% increase over last fiscal year. Of that 42,400, 40,250 was fixed route service, which last May it was 32,583. So about a little less than 8,000 increase on the fixed route for the entire month. And then for Plus, it was about the same, 2150 for this May and 2110 for last May. You can see over there, as we like to point out for the routes, nearly all of them are still increasing year over year compared to the previous month, and except for Social Security, which again, it doesn't do that many rides, so it's kind of, if there's a little bit less rides, it can seem like on the percentages that it's a lot less, but it's still holding its own with the previous year's ridership. And then Saturday actually increased a lot. I think we had one more Saturday though, so that's a little bit of than the previous May, so that's a little bit of an outlier. But
And how does this factor in? West Lindsay is running 30 minutes or every 30 minutes now. So how is that working?
yeah, we started the 30-minute service on West Lindsay last fall, so we're still comparing previous 60-minute service to 30-minute service. So that's, yeah, we're still seeing an increase from that, I believe, from that increase of frequency, but everything else has remained the same since we changed the routes in October of 2023. And then I always like to try to point out the ridership per service hour on fixed route. For May, it was 19 riders almost 20, round up to 20 riders per service hour. And last May it was 18, so that's great. Every service hour we put out there, we increased riders by about 2, which is we have about 5 or 6 buses on the road every hour. So that's you just multiply by 2 there, and we're seeing a little bit of increase on the ridership per service hour. And on Plus, the ridership per service hour for weekday was 1.73, and that's an increase of about 30% over last May, which is 1.33. So we are seeing a little bit more efficient service out of Plus with what we believe the software is doing, trying to commingle rides more often. And
With just the fixed routes on Monday through Friday and on Saturday. So, just the Westheimer route, for example, 59% increase in ridership from 1,900 to a little over 3,000. And then Rock Creek, 57% increase. And then that's Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, West Lindsay having a 93% increase, almost doubling. And Westheimer having 72%, Rock Creek 88%. So, what's driving
that's a great question. I haven't dived into be telling to look at the bus stop by bus stop ridership to see which stops are really increasing, but I haven't really dived into that. As you know, the 121 and 122 are interlined, so 30 minutes it does 121, the next 30 minutes it does 122. We think we see a lot of folks going back and forth on those routes because but I don't want to speculate, but it is great to see that they're increasing so much.
Well, and I think to me it shows justification for us restoring Saturday service when we took over the system. So for those that weren't familiar, CART had ended Saturday service when it was still run by the university towards the end there, and so we brought it back. And I'd be interested to see what people are doing at the airport and up north on Rock Creek and everything on Saturday.
Yeah, and it just doesn't go to the airport, obviously.
Yeah.
It goes kind of by City Hall, Airport, Norman North, and then back down Porter. So I will say a lot of transit agencies, weekend services, you decrease frequency. We've decided just over time that we keep Saturday service at the same level. So West Lindsay, East Lindsay are both 30-minute service on Saturdays. So, which I think is a great thing.
And Sunday service continues to be one of the top priorities of future expansion.
As we evaluate Norman On Demand and how it's doing, if it's getting overloaded, that could be a possible recommendation for fixed routes to expand to Sunday. But it does come with a lot of other extras, vehicle maintenance and fuel costs and things like that.
Okay.
Plus service, which is being provided through Norman On Demand in a sense, but we'd have those plus vehicles on the road as well.
Councilmember Grant.
So would that explain, I was looking at the added mobility on the fixed route, and it said that passengers with wheelchairs total 243, a 49.06 decrease from 477 in May 2024. Are they using Embark Plus? Where did those riders go?
Yeah, so the ridership on Plus was pretty stagnant from last May to this May. It was 2150 compared to 2,110 for last May. Bikes and wheelchairs, it's just one of those things that could ebb and flow, I think.
I noticed bikes were up. So,
right, yeah. So next May, bikes may be down and wheelchairs may be up. But it just depends on the rider, what trips they take, when, how often. Maybe they found another way, maybe they've moved. It's very specific to those riders that are taking those trips.
Are the options for wheelchairs on our buses, are they pretty easy? Like the person could buckle themselves in?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So nearly all the fixed route buses, except for the new two that we inherited from OU when we first started, have the automatic, or not automatic, the more self locking system, quantum, thank you. The quantum system that I think we've talked to council about before. So every vehicle that we've ordered over the past 3 or 4 years have had that quantum included, and that really speeds things up, but also gives a lot of autonomy to the rider.
Okay, well, that was interesting,
Yeah.
those ebbs and flows.
And we've heard
and
nothing
down.
but positive about those quantum units. It's really great. Yeah.
More independence.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks.
On demand, I was just looking at some of
Oh,
the
yes,
on-demand
sorry.
numbers.
So on-demand numbers, we for May have had almost 3,400 rides compared to last May, which was 2,567. For the fiscal year to date, we're at 42,103. And last fiscal year, we were just above 25,000. So we still have 1 month to go, but we're seeing a lot of increase in Norman on-demand usage. That ridership per service hour at 5.8 for May. It was 5.3 for last May, but that's still a high number. Anything over 4 or 5 is really, really great for that type of service. And fiscal year to date, we're even at a 6.1 ridership per service hour with again 7 minivans. They don't all operate at the same time, but it's pretty efficient for those minivans to be operating at that ridership.
And the number of completed trips requesting wheelchair accessible vehicles has increased 68% on
For May specifically, yep.
for in May, yes. And that was again, those aren't familiar, the accessible part was part of the genesis of this program from the council standpoint, was that there were no rideshare services in Norman that offered ADA accessible vehicles, since Uber and Lyft are private vehicles. And so the only way we could figure out to have a on-demand service that had vehicles that could handle wheelchairs, we had to do it ourselves. So
Yeah.
because the private market wasn't providing that service that we needed. So good to see that is increasing too. Okay, any questions from council about that, the report? I think so we won't get our next, or the final report on this year's fiscal numbers till August.
Yes, right.
But just continuing to look at bus stop benches and shelters. I noticed one today in front of the Walmart on 12th on the east side of the Supercenter there that there's not a bench or a shelter there. And I just started thinking, wow, it's a grocery store. People might be standing out there with groceries and they don't have anywhere to sit. Thankfully, there's trees there and it's shaded, but it's just. And then the East Lindsay by Faculty Heights Park still, but just continuing to think about bus stop amenities. Councilor
Question,
Hinkle?
actually, this might be for Daryl. Do we build the bus shelters, or I think we do advertising with Tyler Media, is that correct? Do they provide the shelters?
Yep. Just like Oklahoma City, we have a contract with Tyler Media. They provide the shelters and the benches, generate ad revenue. We get a little bit of a kickback from that. But if graffiti or vandalism or somebody hits the capital asset with a car, it's not ours, it's theirs, so they maintain it completely. We can request trash cans to be there, although that's hit or miss if we, could generate more trash. We've had this conversation in the past, but yeah, they pretty much control all of other than the concrete being put down.
Yeah, and we put a bench in front of the transit center facing Porter that I don't think is.
Yeah, there's special
Yeah,
cases
so-
like that, but there's not, that's probably the only one. There's one across from Sprouts that has a bench that's in line with what we have in downtown, but there's not very many that aren't advertising, so. And Lindsay, yeah, West Lindsay, right, with the
The
streets.
ones we built with that Lindsay Street project that are the brick ones.
Oh, yeah.
Those are city owned and maintained. They are not
Right.
Tyler Media.
Yes.
The brick ones are Tyler Media.
No, they're
No,
ours.
they're ours.
Someone had brought up, and I have seen it, I don't know if it's been fixed since then, but there was one maybe at the corner of 24th.
It's at 24th
and
on the
Lindsay
north
that's,
side of the street.
Looks like
hit
somebody
it.
smashed it with a sledgehammer.
Okay,
It's been kind of busted.
we
for a
can
while.
definitely look into that with Tyler.
Or jump
But that's one of the
curb.
brick ones. That,
Oh, I thought you meant
no, it's
around
one
the
of
corner.
the brick benches that's down there, and
Okay.
probably in front of the liquor store, Corkscrew.
Okay, we can definitely.
Could
So,
be telling.
okay, and then I think just are there any updates about the transit center that we need to know about, and also federal funding when it comes to the grant that we rely on to fund half our system. I don't know if you guys have heard anything from
Well, we got,
Washington or whatever.
I'll take the grant one first. We did get our allocation it's for FY '25, but we use it for FY '26 expenses. So we did get that money allocated, appropriated, and that's for the whole country. So we're working through the ACOG process to get that money programmed. We'll go put it in a grant, and we'll continue how we've always done for like the last 20 or 30 years when we're at OU to pay for normal operations. So that's all good. We haven't heard anything about decrease in funding or anything. I hate to speculate, but the last I heard was, in fact, the last proposed budget was an increase in transit funding, which would be great, but you never know. For the transit center, we've reopened the restroom a month or so ago. We did get a different style toilet installed in there, one that seems to be working better for maybe that high usage at the transit center we're seeing. We haven't had an issue in a couple of weeks, which is great. Knock on wood. It remains closed unless security's there, which is from noon to 8 Monday through Friday and 11 to 7 on Saturdays. And they open it and close it when they leave. So
There was an incident there, of course.
Yeah.
Was that while the security was there?
no, it was before. It was about 10 or 10:30 in the morning before security was there.
Okay, any questions from you guys?
I have a question, if I may. People are concerned about the incident that happened at the transit center. Is there any way we could expand the security times?
Possibly. It's a budget issue,
Yep.
but I think they are flexible in when we could, if we wanted to alter them.
Yeah, we've discussed moving the time forward a little bit. So Monday through Friday, maybe starting at 11, going 11 to 7 instead of noon to 8. And
Okay.
I think that might be warranted, especially because it's a little higher traffic, about 10 or 11 there.
And if transit funding comes in higher than expected, we'd bring you back an appropriation request in that we can jump on that contract right away.
Yeah.
I
Councilmember
was
Grant?
gonna ask, is that also aligned with incident reports, like you're getting them in the morning? Like this is
That's what we're analyzing, yeah, and I'm working with Embark to make sure that the security time is where we want it to be, but it could always happen outside of those times too, an incident could, so. And we're paying, just to remind council, $88,000 I think is the add-on for security service for a year. I don't think it would be as much to add on double, but we operate 15 hours a day, so we're doing 8 hours of security right now. So just putting that number out there is, it wouldn't be exactly double, like I said, but that's a good number to think about.
Thank you. Okay, all right, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda. Thank you, Taylor.
Yep.
And we have a presentation and discussion on the Embark Well Mobility Management Program.
Let Marilyn Dillon take the capital.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for being here, Marilyn.
You're welcome. I don't think I've met everybody in the room. I'm Dr. Marilyn Dillon, the Mobility Management Administrator at Embark. I'm just going to spend a real brief minute kind of telling you about our Embark Well Senior Health and Wellness Transportation Program that we have in Oklahoma City. So for some of those new that are on the committee, Embark has a full range of mobility management services in Oklahoma City. Some of these services are strictly for city residents because of the way that they're funded. Others are county-based, again, because of the funding source that we use to provide them. But I just wanted to kind of do a really brief overview for some of the new people on your committee here so that they will be able to know. But we have homeless and low-income programs. We have a full suite of senior transportation programs. We're the Older Americans Act provider in Oklahoma County. So we do grocery shopping, congregate meal site transportation, and then non-emergency medical. We work with the Regional Food Bank to do nutrition programs, to deliver food boxes to homebound seniors. And then, of course, we have a bunch of other programs here. We're going to talk about our health and wellness program. We also work with the Oklahoma City Police Department to help seniors that have been victims of white-collar crime or identity theft, or you've heard about the grandparent scam and those types of things like that. Many of those individuals don't drive anymore. And so if they're a victim of crime, then we provide the transportation for them to help with their case, meet with their detective, things like that. Then, of course, we have many social service partnerships with Remerge is a diversion program for single moms. We also work with Hope House. And then we work in domestic violence with the Palomar Family Justice Center. So Embarkwell is designed, as we started this in 2018. It was just a one-year pilot. We had a little bit of, about a $30,000 budget with a Federal Transit Administration grant that we needed to close out that was geared towards seniors. So we had to use it in that way. So we decided to do a pilot program because what we were finding is in the space of social services and in the space of health, there was a really big focus starting to happen on what's called the social determinants of health, community connection, eating right, knowing how to buy groceries, exercising, just getting out and moving are incredibly important to health, and that becomes exponentially more important the older you get. And it can also lead to social isolation when you're not out in the community. That can result up to double-digit increases in heart failure, strokes, and in just general health declines. Many of the programs like Medicaid don't cover that type of thing. If you have a doctor's appointment, they're going to take you to the doctor. If you need to go see a specialist, they're going to take you to a specialist. But they're not going to take you to exercise, even if the specialist says you need to go exercise. They're not going to pay for you to go do that. And so I actually had a heart attack in 2018 and had to go through cardiac rehab and started learning very quickly that all of the older people that were older than I was in my rehab class were only able to come once a month, once a week, even though they were supposed to be there 5 days a week. And so that was kind of the brainchild of this, was like, that's wrong. Of all the people that need to get out and exercise and move, this is the group that needs to. So currently it works Monday through Friday, where we do 7 to 7. We don't offer it on the weekends because we were really trying to stay under budget. We serve only health-related locations, and we don't serve for-profit health locations. So much like you all have the Normal Adult Wellness and Education Center, we have the MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Centers in Oklahoma City. So Embarkwell serves all of those locations. We serve all of the YMCA locations in Oklahoma City. They're a nonprofit that we work really closely with on a lot of projects. And then we work closely with our recreation program manager at the Oklahoma City Parks Department to identify the parks locations if they have senior programming or senior exercise classes, craft classes, anything like that that increases their social connection and engagement, then they can attend at an Oklahoma City Parks location. It's available to seniors 60 and over at no cost. We picked the age of 60 because our Older Americans Act programs are also a qualifier based on 60, and so we wanted to keep that level across the board. We do have one stipulation. You have to go to the wellness center that's closest to your house. That's how we keep the trip costs down. Because Oklahoma City's 720 square miles, we didn't want to take Mrs. Smith that lives way down south all the way to 122nd and North Rockwell because she wanted to work out with her friends. That's our only stipulation, is you must go to the location closest to your house to keep the cost down. So I wanted to kind of give you a sense of growth. This became very popular very fast and quickly outgrew its budget. So during our initial budget year, like I said, we had a small pot of money from a federal grant that we used for the initial pilot program. Obviously, trips went way down in 2021 because that thing happened where we closed everything down and nobody was going outside and exercising. But immediately once they started opening back up, you can see how quickly the ridership, the number of trips we were doing per year increased. For the current fiscal year, we are going to end it at about 7,500 trips. It has really, really grown. We feel like our budget for this year, because we've grown so fast, we are actually going to have a $90,000 budget going into July this year to make sure that we can meet demand. The one thing we don't want to do is, this was our plan should we start running out of money. Instead of 5 days a week, you can only go 3. We didn't want to do that. So throughout this whole process, since we started in 2019, we've used that social determinants of health basis. And we've also, and I brought you a copy of this too, but we've done a couple of case studies where we followed 6 seniors for a full year, and they shared their health results, their health tests, their laboratory test results with us so we could monitor their health improvement. We used all of that data to secure a grant from the Oklahoma City Community Foundation to help us meet our budget shortfall. And then our next budget shortfall plan is to leverage some 5310 money plus our local contribution to continue to expand the service. And with that, that's really all I had.
And, so the funding, you said some of it is
Just cash from the city's general fund, about
from the
half of it.
city, in Oklahoma City.
Yes,
And then other is paid for by,
various
could be
grants.
Medicaid, Medicare, or anything
No,
like
we
that
don't bill
potentially.
out anything.
You don't bill out
No,
anything.
we go after grant funding for it, because the goal is to keep it completely free for the seniors.
So they're not having to pay anything. Okay. And so the idea would be, this could be a service that could serve our
Correct.
adult wellness center in Norman.
You would have to come up with a base budget, be realistic. I have absolutely no idea how many seniors 60 and over are members at the awe. But we would need to work through, and kind of run some numbers and so basically do a little reality check before we settled on a budget. We would want to call it a pilot, so we have a little bit of flex if it starts to get super popular and we don't have enough budget to carry us through a full pilot year, so that we can do some pivoting adjustments. That's how we were able to keep it running all the way through COVID and the budget shortfalls and stuff, is that we just continued to pivot. As money came in, we would pivot back this way when we needed to.
Okay, Councilmember Graham?
So I was also thinking, probably want to know all the locations you could take folks. I feel like there's a lot of centrally located stuff. The YMCA, I think we only have one, and that's off of Robinson. Then the AW is also off Robinson and Finley. And then I'm not sure about our parks programming for seniors. I bet there's some out there. I don't know if there's any on the east side or west side, to be honest.
I'm gonna defer that one to Taylor because he's much more familiar with Norman. We actually have had that conversation, but
I've brainstormed a little bit. You're right, it seems very North Norman heavy, but thinking about the nonprofit model or locations, I think perhaps, and we could talk about this as we move forward, if we move forward, the Norman Regional Health Club on the west side, I think it's a city trust nonprofit gym that I think could be a good location. The YFAC, if they have any, there's the outdoor pickleball courts, indoor volleyball, basketball, it could be a location that could be approved. Then you have the AW, the YMCA, those are and the well,
Is there
because the well
anything
provides,
on the east side,
classes.
like the 12th Street Rec Center? I wish Jason were
yeah,
here.
I need to get with Jason and Mitchell and brainstorm what kind of activities are at our recreation centers, but the rec centers could be, and that could be a semester or year-long thing, depending on what the classes are, right? So if they offer a semester-long class for seniors and then it's not in the next semester, we could turn it off and on, right, for those locations.
yeah, we've actually done that in Oklahoma City. I don't know how familiar you are with the Lynn Health Institute. They have a nonprofit arm and they run a program called On the Road to Health. And it's a 16-week class for seniors to help address diabetes and high blood pressure through cooking classes, learning how to go shop properly, things like that. And when they have one of those during the 12-week things, the Embark Well, for those that want to attend On the Road to Health, are allowed to do that. So there's lots of different applications
They
for it.
could go to libraries as well, if there's a class or a program
Right,
specifically
Yep.
for seniors.
right. I've thrown out the idea of maybe the OU gym. Again, it's kind of a nonprofit gym that could cater to some retirees or different community members. So happy to take other suggestions, but those are the ones we've kind of kicked around so far, if we were to move forward.
The OU pool would be another one. A lot of seniors use the OU pool.
So we get that.
That'd be a south facility for sure.
Yeah, and that's really close, like I said, to the OU gym. So.
Your budget, 47K, potentially 90K, that's Oklahoma City.
The 90K, we are planning to put in what's called a Section 5310 application with the Federal Transit Administration. That's the funding that's geared to seniors and individuals with disability. They provide what's called an operating assistance match for projects. And so it's 50-50, so you can match up to what you're paying. So our budget with city funds is $45,000, and then we're gonna match that with $45,000 of 5310 funding to get to 90.
And that covers the whole city of Oklahoma City.
Correct.
So a program for Norman probably wouldn't be that robust, or
Yes, I would highly suggest we start small, kind of gauge our demand for this.
so you probably wouldn't need as much funding from us
No,
as you're
not
getting from the
initially.
city?
There's lots of ways around this. Like one of the things that we do in our community development programs in Oklahoma City is we do Sunday service now, but back in the day we didn't. And seniors want to go to church. And so one of the things that we did to kind of offset that was a trip subsidy program. And so we have gradually over the years been able to use that program to kind of fill in some of the gaps. We have the ability to go back and forth with that subsidy as we get additional funding. And so there's lots of ways for us to pivot different directions and ways to solve it that we can stay in budget.
You have an idea about what this would cost if we were to implement it in Norman?
I would want to talk with our wonderful friends over at AW. To Taylor's point, we'd want to talk to parks and find out exactly where those locations are. Then we would do some scenario analysis, mapping, figuring out what we think maybe the average trip length would be, that we can back our way into a budget that way. In Oklahoma City, our average per trip cost hovers between $7 to $12 a trip. But I don't want to use that in Oklahoma here for Norman because we're bigger than. I mean, we're much more spread out, and so that might not be. So I'd rather do an analysis and not use our data.
And I feel like, I don't think this was mentioned, Marilyn, but we should probably explain the operating model of how the service
Oh,
is
you
actually.
mean who's actually being provided to it? Okay, so the way it's provided is currently we utilize Uber unless they need a lift-equipped vehicle. We do have a contract with a lift-equipped TNC provider. They're pretty specialized. Not the most affordable thing in the world, but it does provide that. Most of the people that we have found on well, I think we have 3 participants the last time I checked that needed a lift-equipped vehicle, and the rest of them are ambulatory and utilize Uber fine. Do we intend to do that forever? No. Embark has 3 in-house mobility services vehicles. We have a small fleet of those. We have some private grant funding as well as a federal grant to buy additional vehicles that are specific to these types of mobility services. As we bring those online and purchase them, outfit them, get them ready for service, our intent is to slowly pull Embark well to where it's a fully in-house provided service.
But I think, I wanted to make sure that was mentioned because that makes the cost, at least initially, to look at it,
Manageable.
just get it started is actually manageable in a sense, right? We're
We
not
do.
buying vehicles, we're not hiring drivers, we're just outsourcing it. And Embark, through this program, has a government account with Uber. It's not just them going online and booking trips through, but they have a rep.
We have a
Talk to-
dedicated account person. We've been using Uber since 2019, and then in that entire span of time, we've had 1 in-vehicle incident, and it was really just a misunderstanding and a verbal exchange between a driver and a passenger.
So just to use some of that, because I know when I first heard that, I was like, oh, we use Uber, but it seems very successful.
Yeah, it's actually worked better than, we went into it with, eyes wide open and monitored them very, very, very closely and have had really just been very pleased with it.
Do you guys have any questions about this part? I think it's, I think something we should definitely continue to pursue. Especially, looks like to me a pretty low-cost startup to get it going and see how well it might work in Norman.
Well, if the agenda would allow it, maybe in 2 months, we can come back after doing some digging. As you all know from talking about the transit budget, we really don't have a lot of wiggle room in it this upcoming fiscal year unless things change with the sales tax or we do get more grant money. So I think we maybe get the numbers and then see how the city's budget's doing as we move forward, but if that makes sense.
Yeah, we found it to be very positive. We did our first case study when we first launched the program, and 83% of the 6 participants we followed for a year had overall improved health scores. Several of them were able to lower their A1C. We even had 1 individual that actually went off of blood pressure medication because he was able to finally control his blood pressure. The second round of case studies found exactly the same thing. Being able to go at least 3 times a week made a distinct difference in their movement, their mobility, mental health improvements as well. I'm gonna leave these with you, so if they want a copy of it.
Did you have any comments or questions on it?
It
If you
sounds.
just
yeah.
identify yourself, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chris Nanny, and I made a couple of comments earlier. I'm sorry, I should have introduced myself. It just sounds wonderful, and we at the AW would be very happy to provide numbers and do a survey, whatever we need to do to help, yeah, get this going. Did anybody else wanna say anything, or offer? Bill?
Stephen, if I may.
Sure.
I sit on the board of directors at the AW,
Would you identify yourself?
Bill Scanlon, alumni of this organization. I sit on the board of directors at the AW, and in that capacity have been sitting in on some transportation committee meetings that Laura and Chris have been holding. And we talk about particularly handicapped people, not everybody, but a lot of handicapped people are there. And I can only give you anecdotal information, but as I sit there and listen week after week, month after month, the stories are, in spite of the good things that Taylor is doing and how he's trying to tailor, pardon the pun, the bus service and other things to these clients, it doesn't always work. When this subject was broached at the last meeting, I mean, you could see the interest, the ears popping up and a lot of attention paid to this. So I guess what I'm saying is, I heard you say, we're gonna look into it. Please do, and do it seriously. And if we at the AW, I don't want to speak for Laura, but anything that we can do to aid in data gathering and so on, we want to do that because we want to serve our clients.
And the seniors of Norman, which is just gonna be a population that's gonna continue to grow. Yeah.
You know, we have over 3,000 members now, and it's growing.
Which is more, I think, than what was being anticipated.
Yeah, we're getting close to, we're climbing up to 4,000.
I hope to be one someday.
Yes, that's what.
And just to be clear, those members are 50 and plus.
That was my
mentioned
question,
60
too.
and plus, so that's.
The wellness centers in OKC, are they all 50 plus also?
I think they're 55.
I feel like I've seen.
So we're 50.
That's just what you chose, yeah, or the city chose.
Because all three of us are.
But in thinking about a pilot startup, if we did do this, I think it's a realistic expectation if we went from 60 to 55 or 50, that just widens the pool
That's
for
gonna
the
widen
budget.
your pool in your budget.
It just depends on what we want to do.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I will look forward to an update on that at our next
Yeah,
meeting
we'll
in a
try to
couple
make
months.
sure we get it
Stephen,
scheduled.
she's got one more.
Yes,
Can I just
yes,
add-
please.
Yeah, I just thought of one more thing. There, in our roundtable discussions that Bill was talking about, quite a few participants have asked for subscription service on the Embark Plus, and they're not able to get that because of numbers and those slots being taken. So I'm thinking those folks would really benefit from something like this. Yeah, so that would be another consideration. It would be a way to fill in those gaps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it could
sure.
use a
Thank you.
plus capacity. And just because the term was mentioned, subscription service on Plus, you're able to request that you get the same ride every week or every 2 weeks, I think, as a premium service, but it's only available for 50% of our capacity, and that's a federal regulation. That way it also allows people to book rides, spontaneously as needed. So that's the issue is we're up at that 50% on our capacity, and you're on a wait list, but unless people move or change their mind or cancel, then you're not gonna get the subscription. So.
Okay, all right, I look forward to the continued discussion. Like I said, I think moving forward with pursuing it is good.
I do know, I live in Oklahoma City, I'm Latasha with Full Circle Adult Day Center, but I live in Oklahoma City, and I do know that 2 of those gyms are 50, because I'm not 60 yet.
Are they 50?
Yeah,
Okay.
the one on Lincoln, the one at Rockwell.
Are they?
Yes,
Because
I'm a member there and I ain't.
we should ask her.
That'd be interesting if they have some that are.
That helps.
They get over 29. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is for what we're looking at for Norman, since that one is 50 also,
Yeah.
so it kind of helps us look at those numbers that way.
Thank you very much.
And again, that would just be a program decision, just like,
Yeah.
anything else.
We could do it earlier.
Could, right.
Okay. Okay. All right, if that's it for that one, we'll go ahead and move on to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And to our third item on the agenda, which is a discussion regarding paving conditions at 80th Avenue Southeast and Blue Jay Road. This was brought forward by a Ward 5 resident on that street, and when they explained the history and the story behind it, I thought it was pretty fascinating how Lindsay Street, a section of it was abandoned and this was repaved in the 90s and all that. So I think there's an attempt to get the city and the county to come back together and do a pipe paving project, but I wanted to see if city staff had any information about the history of that and what we might be able to do going forward.
To be honest, the history that we've gotten has been anecdotal from the residents there. I can't say that we can find any documentation that really helps us move anything forward with this. So we just put together some quick information so everybody knows what we're talking about here. So this is out at Lindsay where it dead ends. Just past that is 84th, and this area you can see is highlighted there in blue. It's 2 roadways. I don't know exactly when this was subdivided. It's an old COS. I can't. We spent some time today trying to locate it, and it's going to take probably maybe just a little bit more effort to get that.
The way I understand it is that Lindsay Street right there before extended through all the way and connected to what is that? 84th. And then that was abandoned and it was made so that it would connect through those two. And
I have no records. I have
Yeah.
nothing. We have
It was
nothing.
like a
We have
county.
no track record that tells us what, why, when, and how.
And
So
a
I don't
story
know.
that I heard was that was abandoned during the reconstruction of the Twin Bridges, and they kind of like detoured on the new route, and then that just became the new route.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I do.
well, I'll give you the opportunity, Randy.
I realize.
So
Let them, and then I'll bring
So like I said, I don't know the history, I don't know the background, I would give it to you if I had it.
Yeah.
And Randy is the historian on it, I can't verify what's been said, this is a problem I have. So basically what's happened over time is this is a private road in our system. We have no easement for it, nothing's ever been dedicated to the city, so the city has no maintenance responsibility for this. It's a private road to us. There is a document that was signed by 2 property owners in this whole area, signing over all of the right-of-way, which I don't even know if is illegal, can be done because they were signing for other people's property unless there were power of attorneys. I don't know, that's outside but it was supposedly dedicated to the county at that time. And the county said, nope, we gave it to you. But there's no record of that. There's
They
nothing.
gave it to us?
Yeah, they claim that they said, oh no, we gave that to the city. There's no records of it at the county, and no one here has anything. We cannot find anything in our historical records showing that there was anything to brought forward that dedicated anything to the city here. So that's kind of where we stand today. So basically, it's not a city responsibility. We do not take care of other private roadways in this area. However, what I told Mr. Carter, and I felt was about the best option that I have to offer, is if the county does accept that it's theirs to maintain, which we have an interlocal agreement with the county, and if the county were to go in there and say, let's fix the paving, that we would participate with them on an interlocal agreement as that qualifies. So we're willing to step in and help out in that capacity on that interlocal agreement and do what needs to be done.
Okay. So what I understand too is that it's functioning as lake traffic is using it. They get to the end of Lindsay Street and see that they can't go any further, and then they're using this private roads to get to the next section line.
Yeah,
However that worked out.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Like I said,
It's not gated or fenced off.
Right.
yeah, and this was, like I said, well before my time here. This is just some showing you the examples of the, alligator cracking. It's past its service life. There's no doubt. There's no, nothing to be said further than that. It does not, like any other roadway, if the city were going to take over maintenance, it would have to be brought to the current city standard. This doesn't meet width. I don't know about the depth of the paving on it. If it were brought to standard and then it was asked to be taken over, if we had, I don't know that this document would be acceptable. We'd have to go to our city legal to determine that. I'm not a lawyer for a reason.
And Scott, would city standard be 6 inches of asphalt over 8 inches of base material?
Basically, yes. And then I'd have to go back and look. This is a rural collector. This ranges from 18-ish feet to up to about 23. I think that I think we're wider than that for our standard roadway for a collector, rural collector.
And I did have a conversation with a county commissioner who thought that the county's long-term goal would be to do a paving job and then hand the keys over to the city forever. And it would be a matter of, if you just drop 2 inches of asphalt on top of this, it'll look like that again in 2 years. And it would become a very expensive maintenance project for us to add into the mix. So I think it's an achievable goal if that was council's goal, and it would just be, let's make sure everybody's on full understanding of what that pavement job actually entails.
And like, our standard, and it's actually, I think it's actually in our code, is that it has to be built, it has to be shown to be at the city standard when we take it over. We've maintained that through other private roadway systems throughout Norman. We had one that was frankly in 60% shape, and they couldn't prove they didn't have the depth. And so, I think we need to, that's been the standard that's always been utilized. I think we need to maintain that, because we don't want to be taking over
Right.
And
gravel roadways.
It seems to me too that, yeah, it's a private road, but if a section of Lindsay Street was abandoned, which is a section line road, was abandoned and traffic was redirected to take 80th and then Blue Jay Road to get to 84th and the lake stuff, then I don't, because there's another street in there, 82nd Avenue, that's not a cul-de-sac, but it would be if it was in the city. Like, we wouldn't be paving that. To me, that's a private road. There's no through traffic that's going down that road. It's not paved.
Yeah.
So it'd be either, I would kind of see it as either it's a section line road and city through traffic is using it, so therefore it needs to be somebody's responsibility besides the property owners, or it's restricted somehow, like through traffic not allowed to go down these streets or something. I don't know. But that's, but I'll let Randy, do you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Scott?
No, I'm not certain that section of Lindsay Street was there to begin with.
From what I understand, it was, and it,
I can answer that.
Was it?
Fifties
That's
and
what,
sixties.
like I said, this was.
till like the 70s, but.
Yeah, this is all
Yeah.
before we had access
If
to
you
it, so
would,
we don't have,
identify-
there's no records.
Right.
Do you wanna sit at
If
the
you'd
table?
identify yourself. if
Yeah,
you'd
come
like
have
to.
a seat.
Oh gosh, I feel privileged. Is reserved seating or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm Randy Carter, resident of Ward 5, and I have lived on this property since 1979. I have lived the history of what has gone on there. Initially, 80th and Blue Jay were private road. Lindsay from 72nd going east went all the way through to 84th. Sometime between 1979 and 1984, when I was living out there, Lindsay Street going east of 80th became completely inaccessible. I had to be pulled out of there a couple of times picking up my daughter from kindergarten. It was decided, I don't remember, it was a combination of the city and the county that approached all the homeowners in that area, asking us if we would deed the private road easements over to the county. And in 1984, all those roads, all those easements were deeded over to the county. And I have a copy of all those easements. They are on file at the county courthouse. And in
I
April.
would love, I'd love to have those.
Okay, absolutely.
Because all I've got is this one document
Oh.
that has one property owner
Yeah.
signing over everybody's property, and I'm like, you can't do that.
I will,
See,
I
we're
can send you the Dropbox here
We're
before
even
too
having
long.
trouble finding that kind of information, so,
I've got it.
yeah, good.
So-
That's really good.
Okay, yeah, I've got all the easements from every one of those properties on 80th and Blue Jay. Now, 84th, people on 84th were not involved in this at all. And then in April the 9th of 1984, the county commissioners accepted those easements, and it's recorded in the minutes of that, their meeting. So, And then I think what happened is the county probably didn't really want to own the easements as we've discussed, understandably. And they kind of forgot about it. And the road has been in very good shape since let me back up. Between 84 and 95, they brought the road up to proper height and dirt and gravelled it. And then in November of 1995, a combination of the city and the county came out and put the asphalt down, paved the road at that time. It was a combination with the city and the county. The city provided the manpower and the equipment, and the county provided the materials. I know this because I was out there sidewalk supervising at the time. The road was excellent, especially compared to what we had before. But the road was excellent, and it has lasted a long, long time. Now, the county, somehow, it never got from the county's records on the accepting of the easements into the staff of the county up until last summer. Everybody at the county staff said that was still a private road. So basically, it's had no attention in all those years, and it's served very well. But you can see now it's getting in bad shape. But one of the reasons that we were approached to deed these easements over was because, like I said, Lindsay going on through to 84th was inaccessible and in horrible condition. But they came to us saying that we need this to change the direction of the road so that school buses, all the regular traffic that would go through, and we were like, we were fine. We were glad to do that. I didn't think there was any dissension among the homeowners. I was not actively involved in the process at the time, but I did, like you can see, Scott, you'll see my signature on one of those easement papers when I get those to you. Again, it's not a private road going into serving 4 homes that dead ends down there. We were approached that the road would become the replacement for the major roadway. And of course, since that time, we had no idea. To us, it was no longer a private road. We'd given up the easement, so we'd seen no responsibility for maintaining the road.
Right.
I mean, we certainly picked up trash from time to time, but that's pretty much what.
There is a website called historicaerials.com that has satellite images going back to 1957, 57, 69, 75, 81, 95, 2003, 8, 10, 13, 15, 17, 19, to today. And so you can, if you go back to 1975, you can see Blue Jay Road doesn't exist yet. And Lindsay Street does go through and connect to 84th.
That was platted sometime along in there as a
And
subdivision.
then by 1995,
kinda
Blue
right.
Jay Road has been built already in the late 70s or whenever. Lindsay Street, you can see just a little white, like a remnant of it still being there. And then by 2003, there's no visual sign that it was.
Well, and it was totally inaccessible when sometime between 84 and 95 when they got it up to grade. It was real low right there at that corner as well.
Okay. So yeah, an interesting little quirk
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
happened
yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And so, if we're able to do a partnership and joint project with the county and get it done,
I visited with Commissioner McHughes, it's in District 2, and he's amenable to working. I can't speak for him, but in visiting with him, in fact, I met with him Tuesday morning, actually. I met with him many times, talked to him about it, but he has told me before that he would get it up to grade. Obviously, there's some stipulations between and again, I don't know, interlocal is it called?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know how all that works.
and we just filed that recently, and we just was on, not this, I think the one before, council before, so it's been in June or May.
Okay.
Councilor Nash.
Yeah, do we have any, is there any wiggle room with the 2019 road maintenance bond? Or an
That would be the
application like this?
2021.
Is that the most recent one?
Is 2021. Yeah. the one that we'll be needing to renew next year too. So,
So in the renewal question,
or are there any savings from the 21 program or the 16 program? I know that.
I mean, that's obviously something the council's gonna have to weigh, but in the past, we have not spent public funds on, in fact, I don't think we can spend public funds on private roads. Now, with it being a county road, now the question becomes, can we expend the funds on, so yes.
public to public at that point.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
but in the interlocal agreement, basically, that's why it was explained, they would buy the asphalt, but we'd lay it down. And then vice versa, when they help us with our roads, they do the dirt work, so they provide labor and then we pay for the asphalt and then the labor on the asphalting. So that's how we work with the county typically on that interlocal agreement.
Can we work towards migrating away from the interlocal agreement and just seeing how much it would cost to get it up to code and just adopt it so that we don't have to deal with making deals with the county every couple of years? How much would it cost, do you think, to get that up to code? I guess probably widened about 8 feet and then.
The problem, I don't know what the subgrade and I don't know if that's 2 or 6 or 8 inches of asphalt. I don't know enough to be able to give you know, I mean, in the shape it's in, I can just, from looking at these photos, it has subgrade failure. We'd have to start from subgrade up and rebuild it.
And Scott, do we know how long, if you add both stretches together, is it 2 miles?
No.
Okay.
No. It's probably 1.5 miles, maybe just barely
Like
a
that
mile.
project to be shared with the county,
It's
and,
this.
to the county's benefit, they would have to deal with it
Lindsay
anymore if
Street
we
is
adopted it
straight
immediately after.
And connected here. And then they eliminated.
Well, now, in the same
Directed traffic tickets.
vein here, Lindsay Street from 72nd to
Residents thought they
80th
signed it over
was
to be
paved at
public
the same
road
time
to the county,
and has had no attention since then either, and I don't know who owns.
so they thought they never had to maintain. it.
Lindsay Street has never been a private road that I'm aware of.
No,
He's like, well, it's working.
I mean,
It's lasted 30 plus
To
years
where,
since
until where
repaved
it's
in the 90s
vacated
by the county.
is city.
Okay. Well, it's in the same shape.
So we could work out a deal with the county where we could possibly bring it up to the city standard and then we take it over as a section line road.
And
Since it
or
is functioning
just
it's functioning as that way.
Well,
right. And as Randy describes, you know, it has lasted a pretty darn long time. And we haven't done a traffic count on it to actually figure out how many cars are on it. Because, you know, versus spend a couple $1 million, we could do traffic counts. And if another 400,000, and this is not a real number, but let's say if 400,000 got you another 30 years, because we don't really anticipate a whole bunch of new development happening on that.
No, it's fully developed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll bring you both options. We'll get some traffic numbers on it, but that observation that it took 30 years to get to this condition.
Yeah, it's been a great road for a long time, but it's getting to the point where it's so neglected that if something's not done reasonably soon, it's gonna be in really bad shape.
Yeah, it'll be back to gravel.
You're saying school buses use it,
Oh,
people pulling boats.
Oh, yeah,
Lots of them.
I mean, if you wanna put a counter on my dog every time they bark, somebody drive by,
And
we can certainly do that.
we do trash service?
Yes, oh, yeah,
Yeah, so we got
So we
garbage
got
trucks
trucks
driving up and down.
yeah, I've got trash service.
Okay.
Just,
80,000 pound garbage truck, eat up a road.
yeah,
It's about 4,400 square feet, or linear
Less than a
feet.
mile.
Okay.
I mean, I would put this would be I don't know. I would say minimum, probably $1 million.
To bring it up to city standards, for the whole sector. Line, okay. So maybe some options on city standard versus just repaving it, and if we're just repaving it, are we legally allowed to contribute to it?
Yeah, because we'll have legal take a peek. If the county says it's a county road, our interlocal agreement would cover our participation in the repavement.
If we tell the county that if they bring it up to the city standard, that we'll take it
from
over,
that point
and we'll
forward.
take over.
That's the direction we.
So we wouldn't be able to contribute financially to them bringing it up.
But
Is
they
that the way
don't
you
have to
understand
do
it?
it once.
They do that, but then we take over the maintenance of it. Okay.
Right.
Well, if they can if we can work that out, I'd be,
And they got more money than we do. So.
Well, and in my conversations with the county commissioner, he said we will get it. And again, I don't know standards and all that business. He said we'll get it repaved and pending whatever can get worked out. And again, I'm not it's not appropriate for me to speak for him. I guess that's just hearsay, I suppose, so. But it is a county-owned road. The easements are squarely in there and approved, so. And I will get
share
you
that with the city staff.
Yes.
We can do, some more research on it.
Yeah, and I think maybe that no meeting in July may be perfect timing for a couple of CPTC agenda items to come back to you with some more meat on the bone.
Councilor Nash, or you guys have anything else you wanna? Okay, anything else, Randy?
Oh, no, thank you for
Appreciate the
letting me
history.
speak. I appreciate it. That's just,
Yeah, well, staff, I appreciate you guys looking into this. Being a
Just one
city
of
this
those.
large, you always come across this.
Well, especially you gotta remember this, when you start annexing things in, things change, all kinds of stuff happens.
I
Now,
didn't
realize,
realize
does
it-
this happen after, some of this happened after that, but yeah, we got lots of, oddities. We get calls probably 5 a year from somebody, you need to come fix my dirt road. It's private. Well, then I'll give it to you. No, we can't take it. So for us, we always want to be consistent to where we're applying the standard the same way for everybody in all situations.
I didn't realize it went through until when I
yeah.
thought Lindsay Street ended right there, and you could go north right here, but that it didn't connect
Right.
after that. So if you wanted to keep going, you had to get off at 80th.
And what we, the homeowners, were told is that it was no longer a private road. And so, that was
Okay.
our
Didn't
understanding.
complain about the boats and the.
No, we were, well, trust me, we appreciated it getting brought up to us, the
But
standard that it was.
It does make sense. The reason the homeowners weren't complaining that all this public traffic was driving on their private road is they weren't under the
Thought we were
enforcement
gonna come
of
back in.
anymore.
Okay.
Well, and as a matter, legally, it was not.
Well, we'll look forward to having a further discussion about this issue when we have some more information and share that documents and stuff with city staff. And
Yes.
we'll
Definitely.
take another look at it later on. Okay, any final comments from council about anything? Okay, all right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You bet. I'll see you over there at the theater.
I'm headed that way shortly.
What's going on at the theater? They're documentary.